Hey everyone, welcome back to the Codependent Doctor. Today we're diving into something that could totally transform our relationships, love languages. You've probably heard about them, but do you really know what they are and how they work? In this episode, we're going to break down the 5 love languages, why they matter, and how figuring out yours and your partner's can make you feel more connected than ever. Whenever you're in a relationship, navigating friendships, or just want to understand yourself a little better, this one's for you. So grab your coffee or tea, get comfy, and let's talk about the unique ways that we all give and receive love. Welcome to the Codependent Doctor, a weekly podcast focusing on all things codependency. Are you struggling to love yourself, feeling burnt out, or having trouble forming loving and meaningful relationships? I can help you heal from the past and move forward with healthier selves, healthier relationships, and healthier, more fulfilling lives. Join me as we reclaim your authentic self. I'm your host, a family doctor and fellow codependent, Dr. Angela Downey. We can do this together. Here we go. Hello to all my wonderful podcast listeners, and welcome to the 26th episode of the Codependent Doctor. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Downey, a family doctor and fellow codependent. Today's episode is going to focus on love languages. If you have a moment, it would be helpful if you could like and subscribe to the podcast, or maybe leave a comment so it would be easier for others who might benefit to find me. I'm always scrolling through social media groups looking for codependency topics to dive into, and I keep seeing the same kinds of questions pop up. They sound something like this. My partner doesn't buy me gifts for my birthday or Christmas. Does that mean that they don't love me? My partner should have known that I needed help with fill in the blank. Why didn't they do anything? Does that mean that they don't care? These kinds of questions highlight a really common struggle, the disconnect between how we give and receive love. A lot of frustration and hurt in relationships comes from the assumption that the way that we feel loved is the same way that our partner should show it, or worse, that they should just instinctively know what we need without us saying anything. The truth is, we all feel and show love differently. Maybe your partner's way of showing love is through practical support, like fixing things around the house or making sure that the bills are paid on time. But what makes you feel loved is hearing affirming words or getting thoughtful surprises. When those two styles don't match up and when there's no communication about it, it's easy to feel unloved or unappreciated, even when love is present. Take my own experience as an example. I had a partner who gave me gifts constantly, like within the first 3 months of our relationship, I must have received about $1,000 worth of stuff. For some people, that might sound amazing, right? But for me, it wasn't a good fit. I don't love getting gifts because it makes me feel like the other person is somehow trying to buy my loyalty. And then I feel this uncomfortable sense of obligation, like I owe them something in return. It's just not the way that I feel loved. But here's the thing, that was their way of expressing love. For them, gifts were probably a genuine way of showing care and affection. They weren't trying to make me feel obligated. That's just how they communicated love. And that's the point. What feels good and meaningful to one person might not land the same way for another. So it's important to recognize that just because someone loves you differently than you'd prefer doesn't mean that they don't love you. And equally, just because you're showing love in your own way doesn't mean that it's being received the way that you hope. The key is to figure out how you and your partner each communicate love and then talk about it openly. The term love language comes from Dr. Chapman, a counselor and author who introduced it in his book, The 5 Love Languages, The Secret to Love That Lasts. The concept is rooted in his experience counseling couples and observing recurring patterns in how people express and interpret love. He noticed that many relationship conflicts stemmed from how partners were expressing love in ways that weren't understood or appreciated by the other partner. For example, one partner might express love by doing chores, while the other craved verbal affirmations or quality time. And this disconnect would lead to feelings of being unloved or unappreciated, even though both partners were actively trying to show love. The term love language resonated because it frames love as a form of communication. Just as we might speak different verbal languages, we often have different emotional languages as well. The key is to understand and speak the love language of the other person that we care about, whether it's romantic partner, family member, or friend. Love language is a brilliant concept that everyone has their own unique way of giving and receiving. Think of it like this. Understanding your love language is like creating a personalized user manual for how you like to be loved. When you figure it out and share it with your partner, it's like handing them the ultimate cheat code to make you feel valued, appreciated, and truly cared for. Imagine how much easier things would be if both of you had that kind of clarity. It's so common to fall into the trap of thinking, if they really loved me, they'd just know what I need. It feels romantic, right? But the idea that someone who loves you should instinctively understand exactly how to make you feel valued and cared for, it's not reality. Even the most attentive, loving partner can't read your mind. Think about it. How often do you really know what someone else needs without them telling you? Sure, you might guess sometimes, but everyone is so different in how they feel and how they show love. Expecting someone to just know is setting them up to fail, even if their intentions are good. Communicating your needs doesn't mean they love you any less or that the relationship is lacking in some way. It's actually the opposite. It's a way of strengthening your connection. When you openly share what makes you feel loved, you're giving your partner the tools that they need to succeed. You're saying, hey, this is what makes me feel appreciated and cared for. I wanted to let you in on that. You're handing them a roadmap to your heart. And honestly, that's a gift. It makes things clearer for them, which means that they don't have to guess or worry if they're getting it wrong. And when they act on what you've shared, it feels so much better because you know that they're doing it with your specific needs in mind. But a lot of us don't even know what we need to feel loved. And that's not because there's something wrong with us. It's because life happens. Maybe you've never stopped to think about it because you've been too busy keeping everything else together. Or maybe you've been so focused on taking care of other people's needs, your kids, your partners, your friends, that your own needs got lost in the shuffle. If you've spent most of your life prioritizing others, it can be tough to recognize what you need, let alone ask for it. And that's where the frustration starts. You might find yourself thinking, why doesn't my partner know what I need? But here's the truth. If you don't know it yourself, how can you expect them to figure it out? Exploring love languages will give you a framework to start unraveling that mystery. Taking time to identify your love language isn't just helpful, it's really empowering. It's like finally being able to say, this is what makes me feel loved. This is what fills my emotional tank. Whether it's words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, or receiving gifts, understanding what resonates with you is the first step to building a stronger, more fulfilling relationship. Communicating this to your partner isn't selfish. It's not about demanding that they do things your way. It's about giving them the tools to love you in a way that truly connects. At the same time, learning your partner's love language can be an eye-opening experience as well. Maybe they've been showing you love all along in ways that you didn't even notice because it's not your language. So if you never thought about your love language, now is a great time to start. Ask yourself, what makes me feel most appreciated? And what lights me up? What do I wish that my partner would do often or maybe less often? Once you have those answers, you can begin teaching your partner what you need. It's not about mind reading or guesswork. It's about having open, honest conversations and working together to make love feel fulfilling for both of you. Dr. Gary Chapman came up with the concept of 5 different love languages, which are basically 5 unique ways that people give and receive love. Most people can resonate with at least a few of them. It's not like you have to fit neatly into just one category. Some love languages might feel more important to you than others, and that's totally normal. For example, maybe you really value quality time and words of affirmation, but gifts don't do much for you. Or maybe you feel loved when your partner does practical things to help you out, like acts of service, but you also appreciate physical touch for that emotional connection. It's not about limiting yourself to one love language. It's about figuring out what truly makes you feel cared for and prioritizing those. As we're going to explore the different love languages, try to think about all 5 love languages and rank them in order of importance for you. Ask yourself, what makes me feel most loved and appreciated? What leaves me feeling disconnected? Prioritizing them can help you get a clear picture of your emotional needs. You can also make this into a fun activity to do with your partner. So start by ranking the love languages for yourself and then try to guess how your partner might rank theirs. Once you've both done this, you can share your results. It's a great way to spark conversation and learn more about each other and to discover new ways to connect. Dr. Chapman's 5 love languages are as follows. First one being words of affirmation. So these are verbal expressions like compliments, encouragement, or a simple I love you. 2, acts of service. doing helpful things like running errands or cooking dinner to show love through actions. 3. Receiving gifts. Thoughtful tokens of love, big or small, that show someone is thinking about you. 4. Quality time. Undivided attention and meaningful moments together. Physical touch. Hugs, hand-holding, and affectionate physical connection. Let's dive a little deeper into each of these. Words of affirmation is one of the 5 love languages, and it's all about expressing love, appreciation, and encouragement through words. For people who resonate with this love language, what you say and how you say it matters deeply. Verbal and written affirmations act as fuel for their emotional tank, and it reinforces their sense of worth and connection in the relationship. It can take many forms, from a simple compliment to a heartfelt message. It might be saying, "You look incredible today," or "I'm so grateful for everything that you do for us." These words can also show up in unexpected ways, like leaving a sticky note on the bathroom mirror that says, "You've got this," or sending a sweet text in the middle of the day just to let someone know that you're thinking about them. The key is that these words are meaningful and intentional. It's not about repeating generic phrases like, "You're great," without sincerity. It's about tailoring your affirmations to what truly matters to the other person. Highlighting specific qualities or actions like saying, "I really admire how you work for our family," can make those words even more impactful. If words of affirmation are your love language, verbal expressions of love carry significant emotional weight. A genuine compliment or encouraging statement can brighten your day and make you feel truly valued. On the flip side, negative or careless words like criticism, sarcasm, or a lack of acknowledgement can feel disproportionately hurtful. This is because for people with this love language, words are more than just communication. They're a form of emotional connection. So hearing "I appreciate you" or "I love you" isn't just nice, it's necessary for feeling secure and cherished. It's how they know that they're loved. However, it's not just about big declarations. Everyday affirmations like saying thank you for small acts or acknowledging their efforts can go a long way in making someone feel seen and appreciated. When you use words to express love, it creates a ripple effect. It reinforces your partner's sense of worth, deepens your emotional connection, and builds trust. And for those who value this love language, words aren't just nice to hear, they're how they know that they're loved. So if your partner's love language is words of affirmation, don't underestimate the power of a kind word. Maybe a thoughtful compliment or a simple "I appreciate you." Those words can transform their day and your relationship. Acts of service is all about expressing love through actions rather than words. For people who resonate with this love language, nothing says "I care about you" like taking initiative to help out or lighten the load. It's about showing your love through practical, thoughtful gestures that make life a little easier or more enjoyable for the other person. Acts of service can take many forms, but at its core, the love language is about stepping up and helping in tangible ways. It could be something as simple as cooking dinner when your partner has had a long day, folding the laundry without being asked, or running errands to save them some time. These acts don't have to be grand or expensive. It's not about over-the-top gestures. What matters most is that the action is thoughtful and comes from a place of love. For example, if your partner always stresses about making the morning coffee, you could take over the task as a way of showing them that you care. Or if they're swamped at work, offering to handle grocery shopping or pick up the kids can mean the world to them. The key here is to be proactive. Someone whose love language is acts of service doesn't necessarily want to ask for help all the time. They feel most loved when their partner notices that something needs to be done or that they take action on their own. It's important to note that the effort behind the action matters more than the perfection. If you burn the toast or miss a spot while cleaning, the intention was still there and it counts. What's most meaningful is the thought and care that you've put into making their life easier. Imagine this. Your partner knows that you've had a hectic day, so they surprise you by doing something practical like tidying up the house or packing your lunch for the next day, or maybe filling up your car with gas. These aren't flashy or romantic gestures, but for someone who values acts of service, they're deeply meaningful. Other everyday examples can include taking out the trash before it piles up, walking the dog so your partner can sleep in, or maybe fixing something around the house without being asked. Acts of service demonstrate love through effort, care, and reliability. For someone whose love language is this, these gestures build trust and emotional security because they show that their partner is willing to step in and support them. If your partner values acts of service, remember that it's not about doing everything perfectly or taking on huge tasks. It's about showing up and noticing what they need and taking action with love. Sometimes the simplest gesture can speak the loudest. Receiving gifts is another love language, and it's often misunderstood. At first glance, it might seem that it's materialistic, but in reality, it's not about the cost or the size of the gift. It's about the thought and the effort that was put behind it. For someone with this love language, a gift is a tangible symbol of love, care, and thoughtfulness. It's a physical reminder that says, I was thinking about you. Receiving gifts as a love language can show up in many ways. It might be a thoughtful birthday present, a surprise bouquet of flowers, or even something as simple as grabbing their favorite snack from the gas station. The value isn't in the item itself, but it's in the thought that went into it. For example, a person with this love language might light up when they receive something that shows that you've been paying attention to what they love or what they need. Maybe it's a book that they mention in passing, or a memento from a trip that reminded you of them. These gifts don't have to be expensive or extravagant. They just need to reflect that you were thinking about them and wanted to make them feel special. The timing of the gift also matters. A spontaneous gift, sometimes given just because, can often mean more than a gift that was given out of obligation, like a holiday or a birthday gift. The element of surprise makes it even more meaningful because it's unexpected and feels uniquely personal. For someone whose primary love language is receiving gifts, these tokens of love can carry deep emotional well-being. A well-chosen gift communicates that they're paying attention to their preferences, interests, and needs. It's not just about the item, it's about the story behind it. Other examples include buying their favorite flowers without a special occasion, surprising them with a small item related to their hobby, wrapping up a thoughtful note or picture that holds sentimental value. These gestures might seem small, but for someone with this love language, they have a big impact. Ultimately, it's not about how much you give, it's about how much thought that you put into it. Quality time is another of the 5 languages, and it's all about connection through focused, intentional time together. For someone with this love language, being present is everything. It's not just about being in the same room or doing the same activity. It's about feeling like you have their full attention, like they're truly with you. Quality time doesn't require grand gestures or expensive outings. It's about creating moments of meaningful connection. It's all about eliminating distractions and making your partner feel like you're their priority. It can look as simple as turning off the TV or putting the phone on silent and having a real conversation. It might mean going for a walk, cooking dinner together, or even just sitting on the couch catching up on each other's day. The key is presence, both physical and emotional. If your attention is divided, the time that you spend together won't feel fulfilling to someone who values quality time. For example, sitting together while one person is scrolling through their phone doesn't count. It's their undivided attention that matters. Activities like sharing a hobby, having a deep talk, or even running errands together can become meaningful moments if you're fully engaged. Quality time is also about creating shared experiences. Whether it's as a planned date or a spontaneous adventure, it's the togetherness that makes the difference. Even something as routine as eating dinner together can be special if you're focused on connecting during that time. If quality time is your love language, time together equals love. When someone prioritizes spending intentional time with you, it makes you feel valued and cared for and important. On the flip side, distractions, interruptions, or neglecting to spend time together can feel really hurtful. It might leave you feeling like you're not a priority, like rejection or disinterest, even if your partner doesn't mean for it to come across that way. Quality time also builds emotional intimacy. Spending time together allows you to bond, share thoughts, and feel closer to each other. It strengthens your connection by creating memories and moments of understanding, which are the foundation of a healthy relationship. And quality time doesn't have to involve grand plans. It's often the small, everyday moments that matter the most. After a long day, you sit on the couch together and talk about what happened at work. Your partner will listen, ask questions, and shares their day too. Or you go for a walk or have dinner, just the two of you, enjoying each other's company without any distractions. Maybe you cook breakfast together on a Saturday morning, chatting and laughing as you flip pancakes. By prioritizing quality time, you're saying that you matter to me and I want to spend this time with you. If your partner's love language is quality time, remember that it's not about what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Being present, engaged, and focused makes all the difference. Whether it's a 10-minute conversation or an entire evening planned together, the time that you give is the ultimate expression of love. This is my primary love language, and I can tell you that I would rather go shopping with my partner than receiving a gift from them. This is just one example of how different people's love languages can really vary. Physical touch is the last love language that we're going to be talking about, and for people who resonate with this one, physical closeness and affection are essential to feeling loved and connected. This love language goes beyond romantic intimacy, although that can be a big part of it as well. But it includes any kind of nonverbal affection that fosters emotional connection. For someone whose love language is physical touch, these gestures are less about the act itself and more about the emotional warmth and care that they represent. Physical touch can take many forms, from a warm hug to a simple pat on the back. It could be holding hands while watching a movie, cuddling on the couch, or a quick kiss before heading out the door. Even small gestures like a squeeze of the hand, a playful nudge, or sitting close to each other can make someone with this love language feel secure and valued. Physical touch doesn't have to be extravagant or overly demonstrative to have an impact. In fact, it's often the little everyday gestures that carry the most weight. Something as simple as a hand on your shoulder while passing by or resting your hand on their knee while sitting together can speak volumes. And it's these small, consistent acts of affection that build connection and trust over time. For people with this love language, physical affection is like emotional oxygen. It reassures them, calms them, and makes them feel deeply connected to the person that they love. Without physical touch, they might start to feel distant or unloved, even if their partner is showing love in other ways. For them, a lack of touch can feel like a lack of care or attention. This isn't about being clingy or needy. It's simply how they're wired to feel connection. It can show up in small, ordinary ways that can have a big impact, like you come home from a stressful day and your partner greets you with a spontaneous hug that instantly makes you feel better. Or while walking through the park, they reach and hold your hand, creating a sense of closeness without saying a word. Or if you're sitting together on the couch and they rest their hand on your shoulder or they playfully nudge you while you're laughing at something funny. Each of these gestures reinforce the bond between you and helps maintain emotional intimacy. When your partner doesn't speak your love language, it can feel really frustrating and even a little lonely. It's like you're both trying to connect, but you're speaking two completely different emotional languages. You're putting in effort, and so are they, but somehow it's just not landing the way that either of you had hoped. For example, let's say that your love language is quality time, but your partner is all about acts of service. They might think that they're showing you tons of love by fixing things around the house, cooking meals, or running errands. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like, okay, that's nice, but I really want you to sit down and spend some time with me. Or maybe your love language is words of affirmation, and their go-to is physical touch. They hug you, cuddle you, and hold your hand, but you're craving heartfelt words like, I'm so proud of you, or I love the way that you handled that situation. And when you don't hear those words, it's easy to feel like they're not showing up for you emotionally, even though they think that they're being super loving. This disconnect can lead to misunderstandings. One person might feel unappreciated or unloved, even though the other person is genuinely trying their best. And honestly, that's tough. It can leave both of you feeling like you're spinning your wheels. Take some time to figure out what your love language is. It's a game changer for understanding how you feel loved. Once you've got a handle on it, share it with your partner. Let them know, hey, this is what really makes me feel appreciated and cared for. It's such an important step because, let's be honest, nobody's a mind reader. Once that's done, flip the script and have your partner do the same. Ask them what makes them feel loved. Maybe it's words of affirmation, quality time, or something else. Understanding their love language gives you both a clear picture of what's meaningful to each other, and it helps you avoid those frustrating, why don't they get me moments. Once you know your partner's love language, the next step is putting it into action. Start looking for ways to fill their love tank, even if their love language doesn't come naturally to you. For example, if your love language is physical touch, but theirs is acts of service, you might need to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and focus on doing things that help them out, like folding the laundry or running errands. It might not be your default way of showing them love, but making that effort means a lot to your partner. And don't stress about being perfect at it. It's not about becoming an expert in their love language overnight. It's about showing that you're willing to try. The effort alone sends a powerful message. I care enough about you to step outside my habits and do what makes you feel loved. That's huge in any relationship. This works both ways too. When your partner knows your love language, they can start making small changes to meet your needs as well. Maybe they're naturally someone who expresses love through gifts, but you're all about quality time. They might start carving out more moments to sit and talk with you or plan dates where the two of you can just focus on each other. The more you practice speaking each other's love language, the more natural it's going to start to feel. Over time, it becomes less of an effort and more of a habit. Plus, the more that you see your partner making an effort, the more appreciated and connected you're going to feel, and that positive energy just keeps building. So what happens when your partner doesn't care about your love language? Honestly, that's a tough pill to swallow. Love languages are all about connection, effort, and mutual respect. If your partner isn't willing to learn what makes you feel loved, or worse, they dismiss it completely, that's the sign of a deeper issue in the relationship. Here's the thing, relationships will thrive when both people are invested in making each other feel valued and cared for. If you've communicated your love language and expressed why it matters, and your partner still doesn't put in the effort, it might leave you feeling unseen or unimportant, and you deserve better than that. Now, I'm not saying that this is the end of the road. Sometimes people resist love languages because they don't understand them or they think that they're unnecessary. It might take a little patience and conversation to explain that it's not about changing who they are, it's about finding ways to connect more deeply. But if they're flat out unwilling to try, that's something that you're going to need to reflect on. Love languages aren't just a cute idea. They're a tool for building stronger, healthier relationships. If your partner isn't interested in using that tool, you need to ask yourself, are they showing up for you in other ways? Are they invested in the relationship overall? And most importantly, are you feeling fulfilled, loved, and supported? At the end of the day, relationships are about give and take. If one person is doing all the giving while the other isn't willing to meet them halfway, it's going to feel one-sided, and that's not sustainable. Knowing your love language is important, and so is having a partner who respects and values it. You can't force someone to care, but you can decide what kind of effort and connection that you need in a relationship, because you deserve to feel loved in a way that speaks to your heart, whether it's through receiving gifts, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, or quality time. And I hope that you're able to find that connection within your relationship. I'm working on a small mini-series for the new year focused on addictions, covering topics like addictions to food, drugs, alcohol, and exploring the various programs that are available to help. I'd love your input. If there's something specific you'd like to hear about, questions you'd like answered, or personal stories that you'd like to share, please feel free to email me at codependentdoctor@gmail.com. Your insights and experiences can make this series even more impactful. I can't wait to hear from you. And with that, I'm going to wrap up the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and remember that your love language matters, and so do you. I'm going to meet you here next week when we talk about being alone versus being lonely. Take care for now. Thank you for joining me, and I hope today's podcast resonated with you. Click like and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes and to help others who might benefit. This podcast is not meant to provide medical advice and should not replace seeing your doctor for mental health concerns. If you're having a mental health crisis, please present to a hospital, call 911 or your local crisis helpline. I'll talk to you next week with another edition of The Codependent Doctor. We can do this together.